The purpose of the G-27 Committee, it's a group of a bunch of accomplished professionals that deal with batteries and transportation in general. So you're talking about FAA, pilots associations, test labs, and the goal of this committee is to help SAE write a standard, and it's actually called AS6413, and it pertains to transporting lithium batteries on passenger aircraft. This happens already, and they want to make sure that this is going to be something that they can standardize and say, okay, manufacturers, yes, you can fly on passenger aircraft. However, this is going to have to happen in a standardized, regulated, and safe manner. Nobody wants to see any type of loss of life from a catastrophic incident like we've seen in the news several times previously, starting in the late 90s. Standardized testing is a method of testing that eliminates ambiguity, and it's important so that any lab or lab personnel, regardless of experience level, can run the test in the exact same way. We can call it round robin testing, where we can have the exact same test that you can achieve repeatable results from lab to lab. Now, you may not get the same outcome, but you could say something like, all right, we're going to test a particular cell in a certain manner. And we talked about things like, where do we place the heater? At what ramp rate do we heat this up? How many degrees Celsius per minute do we heat this cell until it reaches thermal runaway? At what state of charge do we begin? How is this packaged? Which cell in the package do we initiate? And where do we watch propagation go from the outside of the package in? Do we start in a central location? And so these test labs develop a method where you could have someone who's maybe not an expert in testing or packaging. It could just be a brand new hired lab tech that can read this standard and say, okay, I can achieve the same test result, maybe not outcome, but result from testing as someone who's been in the industry for 20 years. That's why that's important. Some of the challenges in testing and standardization is, in fact, developing some language where it's going to be repeatable lab to lab. You can have something as simple as saying, okay, you place a cell in a package, force it to thermal runaway, and you give pass-fail criteria. But you've got to make the language so plain that every single time this test happens, whether it happens in a test lab in Texas or it happens in a test lab in Germany, that the test is initiated exactly the same every time. The types of tests that the G-27 Committee conduct all pertain to thermal runaway in packaging as it presents hazards in a passenger aircraft. So this is going to pertain to forcing cells or batteries into thermal runaway inside a package, inside of a 300-liter free volume chamber that's got mixing fans and a spark ignition system, because the goal there is to test the package, not so much the battery. And what they're looking to accomplish is to say, can the package contain thermal runaway, hazardous particles, hazardous flames, and make sure that the outgases that escape the package are not combustible or explosive when mixed with 300-liter free volume of air.